The 12 families living in this Keele Street low-rise are in jeopardy of losing their homes as they're once again facing a renoviction. So the plan for this building is to add a couple more levels, remodel the units, and then raise the rent. This is the second attempt in 6 months to evict the people living here, and these tenants are not going down without a fight.
We don't have a choice but to fight this because there's nowhere else for us to go.
We first brought you to this building 5 months ago, just as a third wave was gaining steam. Everyone here had received N13 notices from their new landlord, giving them 4 months to vacate.
With the whole COVID thing going on, many of us lost our jobs or were on a leave kind of thing. So it's very stressful. Very, very stressful.
The tenants took their fight against the real estate investment company to social media. They plastered posters outside the company's office and even took their protest to the CEO's doorstep.
Stop the eviction!
Stop the eviction!
Shortly after, the company dropped the eviction notices. Then the building went back on the market. The listing described it as a significant value-add opportunity, adding rents were 50% of market value. But the building never sold. And then last week, a second round of eviction notices were issued to some tenants.
So right now this says that you have to be out of your home by the end of January. So you have 4 months to get out.
It's been kind of like a roller coaster ride, very stressful.
Online, the real estate development firm is open about its business model of flipping undervalued properties, saying their specialty is low-rise buildings and their finished projects attract above-average rents.
Sounds right. Yeah, I don't know. No signs or anything. I got the temporarily closed.
After a few attempts to reach the CEO, we made contact via email. Brendan Riley tells me after he rescinded the first notices, the company tried to work with the tenants, but they were uncooperative and unresponsive. He claims they kiboshed the sale of the building by refusing to allow potential buyers into their units, and he says they went too far by publicly defaming him and his company and called the protest outside his house illegal. At the end of the day, this is a business, he wrote. We all have families and have to put bread on the table.
We can't afford to leave.
Flynn Daunt is a lead organizer of the tenant movement and tells me the protest outside Riley's home was peaceful and necessary.
We have children and elderly in the building. We don't know where they would go if they were kicked out. And he seems insistent on trying to kick us out.
For compensation, Riley says the tenants here are being offered 3 months' rent and will have their units offered back to them once the renovations are completed. And all of this is in line with the Residential Tenancies Act. But critics say none of this goes nearly far enough for people in these situations.
The real estate pressures in the market, both folks are engaged in speculating buying practices, trying to flip real estate properties, increase profits, and of course, folks who are on the other side of that and being squeezed out.
About a year ago, the province strengthened protections for tenants in these situations by beefing up fines for landlords who break the law and upping compensation for renters facing eviction. According to the Ministry of Housing and Municipal Affairs, a landlord cannot refuse the tenant's request to reoccupy the unit, and they cannot charge more rent than the tenant would be paying if they had not moved out.
There are rules and regulations that are in place provincially, but they're very difficult to enforce. And it also puts the burden on tenants. It's a complicated system. The landlord-tenant board is perpetually backed up.
Now, Toronto does have bylaws in place to protect rental buildings with 6 or more units from being demolished. Councillor Bradford says this is one way the city can help stand up for tenants.
When I hear about renovictions in my office, I immediately flag them for Toronto Building Department staff to watch those permits extra closely, make sure that if it is an existing rental building, if those units hit the 6-unit minimum, and we see that, the city's rules aren't being broken. I follow that up by contacting the landlord to let them know that we are in fact aware of what's going on here, that tenants have reached out, and that we're getting involved in these issues. And it's important that the landlords that are trying to engage in these practice, that they know it's not going to just fly under the radar.
Now, the 12 families living here on Keele Street will continue to fight their evictions. As of now, their deadline to vacate is the end of January. In North York, Shauna Hunt, City News.